Cam Miller was shockingly good in that game. And we had seen Cam Miller improve. We saw him improve 2 years ago. We saw him improve last year. And this year, it looked like a whole different quarterback. His confidence in the pocket was felt. I saw the way that he was running the offense. He looked confident running the offense. He didn't look scared of Colorado. He didn't look like he was intimidated by any of the pressures. Everything that was getting thrown at him, it looked like he had an answer for, which was great to see. What North Dakota throwing in freaking Peyton Stone or whatever Cole Payton for two plays at a time. That was one of the bigger coaching bunglings that I've seen. If you want that big Adonis to run for 2 yards,
I don't know if I classify him as an Adonis. That would be a little bit polite.
His biceps. Yeah, I take another.
I think he's just a big oaf. I think that's what he is. I think Adonis is a very.
If you want the big oaf to come in and fall forward 2 yards on a third and short, go ahead and do that.
This isn't an Adonis. You kidding me?
Scroll up. Look at his pipes.
He's got big arms. He's got big arms. He's 6'3", 235. Of course, he's got big pipes. But look at him.
Focusing on the facial features for an Adonis.
That's important for defining an Adonis. What are you talking about?
Give me a break. He's shredded. And a shredded quarterback is good for running for a first down. I don't have much confidence in shredded quarterbacks going and throwing 2-yard outs, which he didn't do that good at. So the game plan for NDSU felt disjointed at times, where Cole Payton didn't need to be in the game for more than 5 snaps. He didn't need to, and it felt like he was. North Dakota State showed me a lot on defense. Their defensive discipline was strong. Some of the tackling was tough, but Colorado does have some of the most slippery outside receivers in the nation, where they can break tackles. Travis Hunter was a menace. I'm not going to chalk up a bunch of L's on North Dakota State for seeing Travis Hunter do what he did. He's a spectacular talent. That is not a condemnation on them, but rather just a peak performance from that great athlete. North Dakota State, I think, buys a lot of goodwill with this game for the rest of the FCS season. This is a legit opponent. It is with legit outside threat talent and a very good quarterback. And the very good quarterback, Shedeur Sanders, did use the scheme well. They passed it over the middle. I don't think North Dakota State is going to face a lot of teams this year that do exactly that or have the ability to clear it out deep and then also have a threat on a deep corner, deep post, wherever you want to put the ball, like Sanders and company did.
This is unlike anything that either team is going to see for the rest of the year. I think Colorado getting to face North Dakota State early was good for them. One of the things I said leading up to this week, no matter the outcome, as long as they win, it is a good barometer for figuring out what your issues are. It is a good opportunity to build a little bit of confidence, which I don't know how much confidence you get out of a game like that. But to go up against an opponent that's going to punch you in the mouth for 4 quarters, which they did, and to come out and survive it against a team that is a powerhouse at their level, or at one point was a powerhouse, maybe not the same level as before, is a strong test of just your team's just character and ability to fight through adversity. Despite that, though, Colorado did not look clean in a number of things. Shedeur Sanders played his ass off. 445 passing yards. I don't count the interception, but the 4 passing touchdowns that he had, it was freaking phenomenal. The connections that he was able to have with his receivers, I don't know how much Travis Hunter was in, but it felt like every time that they did call on him and we knew that he was getting the football, they knew he was getting the football, he was coming down with that football, especially that ridiculous late touchdown catch that he had. Their defense made stops when they needed. I thought their defensive line looked better than it's been for what they were dealing with an offensive line that their mentality and has had a higher success rate than Colorado of putting offensive linemen into the NFL with the mentality of, we're just going to put our heads down and run through you. The fact that they were able to get penetration and get stops against the run game, I feel much better about that defense. Where I still have serious concern for Colorado, serious concern, is their offensive line, man. They try to get the run game going, and I kept bringing this up saying that I appreciate that they're trying to run the football. And at a certain point, they did seemingly not abandon it, but move away from it. Dallin Hayden had 9 for 20 yards, 9 carries for 20 yards, 2.2 yards per carry. Shedeur, as a runner, didn't really have any design runs. He only rushes for 17 yards. It doesn't really count towards what we're talking about. Charlie Orfadal had 5 for 15 for 3 yards per carry. they had a ridiculously brutal time trying to pick up yards on the ground. I put a lot of that on Pat Shurmur, who I talked about a ton during the live watch party. I don't care if you're going to smirk at that because I don't like Pat Shurmur as a
makes me
Giants
laugh,
fan.
man. I'm not
But
smirking
seriously,
at it. Yeah.
we watched a team in North Dakota State have so much creativity with how they were running the football, with the counters, with the end arounds, sometimes getting a little too cute, but they were able to put a team on their heels sometimes because their opponent didn't know where the ball was going to be going. And all Pat Shurmur did was run like the same concept over and over again to complete failure. And then the last part, the amount of times when they were throwing the ball and there were 4 or 5 man rushes coming through and guys were blasting through that offensive line as easily as they did to get pressures on Shedeur Sanders. This could be another really long season. I will give them the benefit of the doubt because it's a new group together. It might take them some time, but God, that offensive line looked like shit.
Yeah, the tackle play was decent for Colorado. I didn't see a lot of pressure coming down on Shedeur from the edges. It was the interior.
All in the interior.
Interior 3 was very rough. And the Shurmur inside zone, inside run philosophy is eventually it's going to break. If we keep on hitting the hammer on the nail, it's eventually going to go through the wood.
That is stupid. That's stupid.
It's so stupid because, okay, if we keep spreading them out, eventually an inside run will go for 40. No, that's not how it works. There has to be, if you want inside run to work, inside zone to work, you have to set up outside zone. You have to set up pitches. You have to set up running the ball to the outside to get the linebacker's eyes off the A gaps immediately. Because if you're a linebacker for North Dakota State last night and you're watching a possible run situation, you're not looking to the B, C, or D gaps. You just wouldn't because they kept on running it up through the A gaps. There was no differentiation there. There was no mix for the offensive line to run and get outside wide and let a fast running back try to get a corner. It was, we're going to throw to the outside, we're going to throw it deep, and we're going to run it up the middle. That's not a diverse offensive scheme, and that's going to hurt them. Oh, maybe they're trying to hold on to the mid zone and the outside zone for next week and the weeks after. Not in a game that's as tight as that, you need to pull out the stops. If you have plays in the playbook that you're withholding in a close, tight game against the FCS powerhouse, use them. You need to. It felt stubborn. The offense last night for Colorado.
Well,
it felt stubborn.
That is the epitome of Pat Shurmur and that's literally why Pat Shurmur got fired as the Giants head coach and why he was done as quickly as he was as the offensive coordinator for the Broncos is because he's the most stubborn, boneheaded play caller ever.
It's frustrating.
It's so vanilla what he calls. And yeah, there's going to be plays that break open the way that they did. The talent gap between Colorado's receivers and North Dakota State's defensive backs was enormous. It was big so that they were able to get the massive splash plays that they were able to produce in that game. But he calls such a vanilla, stupid offense because he thinks that eventually those plays will work at some point if he keeps calling similar concepts. And it doesn't work like that, Pat. For the love of God, you should have stayed an offensive analyst. It pains me so much that they couldn't have been creative in going and hiring somebody else. Instead, that you just bring in the biggest doofus of a play caller who has never been good at it. Even when he was the play caller at the Minnesota Vikings, when he got hired away to be the Giants head coach, they were good, but they weren't like in some upper echelon elite category. And how much we give that credit to Kirk Cousins? He's such a dumbass. I'm so sick of Pat Shurmur. And if they fail to reach their goals this year and they fail to be as good as we were hoping, it's going to be because of Pat Shurmur's actually, it's not even lazy. Just lame, inept play calling. I can't call it lazy because he thinks that he's clearly right, and he is not. I'm not going to hit the panic button, though, after that spiel. I'm not going to hit the panic button, though, because I do think a game like this, when you go up against an elite top 3 FCS program and you're challenged like this, it's going to pay dividends later on in the year. When they play their first Big 12 team and these same deficiencies show up and they lose, if that happens, then the conversation we're going to be having on the show is going to be very different. But I'm not going to freak out after 1 week. You know what it actually kind of did feel like? felt like how Florida State did when we were watching them, where you could see all the pieces, but they just weren't playing together cohesively because there's so many transfer portal guys.
Yeah, I do inherently respect the Florida State and I respect Colorado and these teams in week 1 or week 0 that give themselves a legit matchup. Maybe we didn't think Georgia Tech was as legit as they were going to be. They're more than we thought. They're more legit than thought previously. I respect Colorado for not scheduling, Portland State week 1 or any of these other FCS programs that might not put up as much as of a fight. They knew North Dakota State was going to be a challenge. They were a challenge, and I will never admonish a team that is trying to put together a respectable schedule. It is something that I will appreciate. Teams that open up the season with a hard test and it's not the warm-up game. Like, I appreciate Texas A&M and Notre Dame, no matter how that game shakes out, for deciding week 1 we're kicking it off with a humdinger. Same thing, Clemson, Georgia. I like that. I respect it. It's not just going to be a week of walk-through games against rough FCS teams, and Alabama's the king of that. I know they got Western Kentucky, and they're not a true pushover, but there's a difference. There is. So Colorado did earn my respect by scheduling a tough opponent, and they did look tough, and it was a hard-fought game. But goodness, they do have some holes on that team that need to be addressed quickly.
I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, though, because games are going to be played tomorrow. But I tweeted this out, and it went. It was very misunderstood by those that aren't FCS fans, and all the FCS fans that I have that follow me understood exactly what I was getting at. So I tweeted that if last night's game was any indicator of how South Dakota State versus Oklahoma State's going to go, it's going to be a dogfight. A lot of normal FBS fans, I'm like, what are you talking about? Oklahoma State's nothing like Colorado. That's not what I was comparing.
Yeah.
I was comparing the fact that South Dakota State is this reigning national champion who is, in my opinion, you don't share the same sentiment, in a separate category of all the other FCS teams. Elite of the elite, going up against a better Big 12 team. That is the game that we watched last night on a grander scale because both teams are better. That's what I was trying to say that was completely misunderstood by a ton of people on Twitter when I tweeted that out. Both of these teams have high stakes. South Dakota State wants to prove, hey, you shouldn't have scheduled us. We're the best team in the country. We're going to continue our undefeated streak. And Oklahoma State wants to be able to say, we're not afraid to schedule a tough FCS matchup. We're not afraid to show up and fight. A lot of people, one thing that I saw people saying was like, North Dakota State proves that the top FCS programs have way more talent than people realize. That was also a pretty clear indicator, and that goes in line with what I was getting at, is that if North Dakota State looked that good and that close against Colorado, imagine what South Dakota State's going to look like playing against Oklahoma State.
I love the questions that we've gotten before. What would happen if the top teams went into the MAC? What would happen if the MAC was absorbed by the top teams of the FCS? Yeah. The FCS teams would hold their own just fine. They would do just fine. You see that week in, week out.
I would go a step further than just fine. I really think that like the top 5 FCS teams would easily win the MAC, the Sun Belt. Trying to think.
CUSA.
Yeah, CUSA. Probably not the American or the Mountain West because those conferences are pretty tough. But I think that they could win those conferences.
I would agree. The premier programs, they get fired up when they're put on a big stage and they don't shy away, and that comes with winning. South Dakota State learning how to win, especially deep into the season, I think has transformed their program from a very good competitive team to a team that can take down anybody. That is when you win a couple national championships and you go on a long win streak, there's something that changes within you where you're not hoping to win, you're knowing you're going to win. And if you're losing in the game, it's immediately, why are we doing this? Let's find the fix. Yeah. The winning program versus losing program in college football, it gets healed with 3 years of winning. I truly believe that. And it changes a culture. It just takes a little bit. And South Dakota State truly changed their culture, and they have become an elite program. And I think Oklahoma State, oh yeah, we did our reading now. I guess they're well aware of what South Dakota State is. You think you are? Just wait. It'll be a fun Saturday.
I still have people commenting and asking, where did you see people saying that Oklahoma State fans and pundits are overlooking South Dakota State? I haven't seen that anywhere. It was the Locked On Oklahoma State show, and then there was a second one that it's on Twitter. It's being reshared a ton on Twitter. Chad's the one who keeps posting it. Ron brings up an interesting point. We've seen it with teams that have moved up from the FCS. There's a lot of truth to that because the recruiting actually goes backwards when you move up. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but you're not changing the amount of resources going into a program, and recruits want to go and play for teams that could win a title theoretically. They want to play and go to a playoff. So would you rather sign up to go to JMU or App State right now and go to the Armed Forces Bowl, or would you rather play in a semifinal and play for a national championship and say that you won a national championship? If you're not going to the college football playoff, why wouldn't you set yourself up for an opportunity to win something that's more exciting than just a stupid bowl game?
Well, now the big G5 fishing lure for recruits has to be, well, look, the G5 has a spot in the playoff. If you come here, we can have a shot and be the 12th seed. That's the big lure that's sitting right now. But I understand why NDSU and South Dakota State get so many good recruits, because guys want rings. It's an important ring, and the more you learn about the subdivision, you realize how valued it is as well.